Hi Jade, how you going, mate?
Fantastic, Nathan. Nice to see you.
You too. Um, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity today to speak
Yeah.
with you directly. And for anyone who's kind of getting to meet you for the first time right now, the scale at which you've grown your business to is just exciting. It's hard for a lot of people to imagine what that would be like, particularly if you're just starting off, just about to become an instructor, or if you are an instructor, or maybe you are a studio owner. I feel like you're definitely a couple of levels along from there, and you've probably been through that process yourself every step of the way too. So, um, could you kind of explain what it's like or your situation at the moment, and give us an insight into your story?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess to give present day, like our network, what we've got is we've got 80 studios currently operating with another 50 in the pipeline coming soon. We're operating, we obviously started in Australia and then we expanded to New Zealand. We're in China, USA, and just about to launch in the UK as well. So we're in those countries, and I guess, yeah, opening more and getting really strong growth in each of those markets that we're already in. And, very excited about the future. Absolutely. But we certainly didn't start there.
Yep.
That was not where we didn't start with 80 studios. If I guess if any of the viewers have just heard about Studio Pilates, or there's been a Studio Pilates that's opened up in their city and they go, oh, this seems new. It's not. Like, we've been, I've been doing this. Last year was our 20th year in business.
Oh wow.
And, so we've been doing this for, I've been doing this for quite some time now. And the first more than 10 years of that was instructing. So very different to to, I guess, other franchises, that fitness or even Pilates franchises out there. I was very much the technician in the business for a hell of a long time. It was just myself and my wife. My wife, Tanya, she was a physiotherapist. And she was doing hands-on physio, I think it's called physical therapy in America, but physiotherapy everywhere else. And she was doing sports physio. And her thumbs, it's pretty hard. It's hard on the hands and shoulders and that sort of thing. And so she was looking for something else to transition to. I just come off the back of like an international sporting career. I was the swimmer, made the '96 Olympic team for swimming, and multiple Australian swim teams over the years. And then sort of was transitioning out of that interpersonal training in the fitness space. And then I was looking for something that was more holistic, something that would how do we say, like, personal training was great because I was helping people, and that was something that I was super passionate about. And but personal training I was always limited by the apparatus in the gym, and people that would come in, people would have, like, that I would see would have a shoulder injury or knee injury. And look, you could work around that, and you could do certain things, but then, I always felt there was more that could be done. And I had been exposed to Pilates during my swimming career. And so it just like made sense to dive deeper into the Pilates space, and an opportunity came up to open our studio. My wife and I jumped on it. We didn't have any financial backing at all. We bootstrapped the entire thing. I wanted to buy two Reformers, and didn't have, I went to the bank to get a personal loan for $10,000, and they
Wow.
said no. And so I was like, oh
Oh,
shit. All right. I had a credit card with a $10,000 limit. I said, all right, cool. I'm just going to do a cash advance. And, did a cash advance for $10,000, bought two Reformers, and stuck them in this little, I guess, little space that we had. It was 35 square meters that we had at this local gym that we got onto. And we're like, all right, cool, let's just roll up the sleeves and get it done. We'd done our training sort of prior to that point, and just took the plunge. And we were 22, I think 22, 23 at the time. And like I said, no money, just did it on the credit card, and really then just focused on delivering the best possible workout experience that we could. And within a few weeks, we were, already busy, super busy, like even I guess even just to get our first clients. We literally, did some favors for people. My uncle was a printer, so we got some brochures printed, and we literally walked around the neighborhood and stuck some, flyers into people's letterboxes, and hoped that the phone would ring. We spent a whole weekend doing that around our local community before we kicked off. So, and then it was just, those when that phone did call, we made sure we answered it and convinced people to come in and experience what we had. And we just worked on just delivering the best workout experience that we possibly could. And word of mouth really helped to then generate more and more customers. And before we knew it, we were busy and super busy. And, like I said, it was myself and my wife. We started in a, those that don't know, like a studio Pilates, can unbox this a little bit more. What it is today is very different to what it was when we first started. We did it, in private and semi-private training. So, there was in that 35 square meter space, we had 2 reformers and a couple of mats. And I would have, I think it was like a ratio of 1 to 3. So I would have, or 1 to 2 in the early days. We got another reformer when cash flow started coming in. So we had, Tanya would take her 3 clients on the reformers. I would take mine on the mat for 30 minutes, and then we'd swap. And I would then do 30 minutes on the reformer. She would do 30 minutes on the mat, or vice versa. And so we'd do hour-long classes, privates or semi-privates. And, we did that for a decade. We did that between 60 and 90 hours each a week.
Wow.
So we did it for well over a decade. And so I did the calculation a while back, and I calculated that I've taught over 50,000 classes, and Tanya has done the same.
Wow.
So that's a lot, that's a lot, and as you know, being an instructor, that's a lot to deliver in that semi-private space.
Yeah.
And we were running, we're running split programs, like, not everyone's at that same level all the time. So, you're changing up the program. It's not everyone's doing the same thing.
Yep.
So we're doing split programs, multiple programs, people with different levels. You might have an athlete coming in alongside someone who's pregnant, alongside an 80-year-old. You know what I mean? So you've got, it's quite dynamic. And we're changing all the springs, fully cueing all of the exercises, and, and then also bringing that motivation, caring, understanding, all of that empathy, chat and rapport building, all of the things that make for a great workout, as well as obviously delivering the exercises and delivering the sequences, all of that, for a lot,
Yeah.
And then we were doing a hell of a lot of instructing, but we loved it. We absolutely loved it. And it was and we still do, you know what I mean? It's an absolute passion. I love teaching Pilates, and I love the repertoire. I love everything that it can do for the body. The fact that, like I said, anyone can get something from it, whether that's someone who is an elite athlete. We've got multiple Olympians that have come through our training, our studios, and world record holders, all the way through. The thing that really, it's incredibly rewarding helping those people, but it's also really incredibly rewarding helping people that have never exercised before in their life. We had so many customers that have come to us that I've taken that have never done a stretch before in their life, never even walked around the block, never done any activity whatsoever. And then they find Pilates, and then it changes their life. All of a sudden, they've found something that they can really connect with, and they get hooked on it. you know, that's something that's life-changing for me. And look, I've got goosebumps just even thinking about it, you know, because it's so incredibly rewarding. You know, and when we started out, you know, we had to figure everything out. You know, we had to figure everything out, you know, what worked, what didn't work. And then after a long period of time, you know, we realized that we went overseas, we traveled to some different cities and, you know, did experience classes in other studios like you've done, you know, many times. And, you know, we thought, look, we do things that I think might be a little bit different to others. And I feel that our product, our service that we deliver is a good one. And we want to scale this. You know, I wanted to scale it. I wanted to spread the message. I wanted to see more people have access to a high quality Pilates workout in their neighborhood. You know, because it's got to be convenient, you know, number one, otherwise you're not going to, you know, keep it up. And there was, you know, some real inconsistencies between the quality of the studios out there. And so, you know, whether you love that or hate that, whatever, what I was passionate about is just engaging more people, having more people experience a workout that they could fall in love with and would change their life. And so, you know, we've said about, you know, then it was like, okay, well, how do we go about this? Like, how do I even scale this business? Because the way that we were doing it, which was just the organic, natural way that I'm sure that a lot of your viewers do it or would imagine doing it as a business owner if they are an instructor, it just wasn't sustainable. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I figured out that there was some real fundamental issues with the way that we would you know, that we were doing things that I couldn't see operating. Like there was fundamental issues just in the one studio, let alone being able to scale quality, you know, a quality product, to be able to scale that across multiple locations and, you know, even dreaming bigger, you know, across multiple countries. And so, yeah, there was some real challenges that we had to, I guess, really unbox, re-gear, and think of a better way to do it, you know, because like for us instructing, you know, 80, 90 hours a week was just not sustainable. You know, we couldn't go away on holidays. We were the business, you know what I mean? Like back in that day, we were the business. We didn't have a business. You know, we had a well-paying job, like we were busy, but we were doing something that we loved, but we didn't necessarily have a business that we could sell. It wasn't a saleable asset, you know what I mean? My definition of a business is a profitable commercial enterprise that can work without the owner if the owner chooses to go on holidays.
Yeah.
You know?
It's autonomous a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't necessarily have that, you know? So, yeah, had to go through a whole process of realizations, I think. Do you know what I mean? A lot of realizations and a lot of, you know, thought, a lot of education, a lot of analyzing what we do and how to then be able to have others follow in those footsteps, have others do that successfully to be able to create a successful business. Because we didn't have a framework. There was no Pilates franchises, you know, back when we started back in 2002. You know, and looking back, you know, would I have, being a young sort of whippersnapper, would I have invested in a franchise? Well, I didn't have any money to, so I probably couldn't have. But would I have? Probably not. But looking back now, there is no way that I would not, you know, if there was an opportunity, I would absolutely jump on it. Like if I was getting into a different industry, into like, you know, cafes or something, there's no way I'd want to try and reinvent the wheel. I'd want to try and plug into someone else's success and expertise in a different system. So yeah, I mean, and for those that don't know, any viewers that don't know, you know, Studio Pilates Now, what we do is we don't do that semi-private and group training. We do group reformer workouts, and we stick exclusively to that. But what we've done is back in 2009, when we, I guess, reinvented what we do and how we did it, and I can share more of that later. But what we did is we added an audio visual component to it, right? Because we wanted to create something that kept the fundamentals that we felt was important in a great Pilates workout. You know, that individual attention, you know, that ability for that instructor to ensure that the customer's resistance was right for them. Not only right, but right for them, you know, specifically, and and ensure that even the exercise was right for them, so individuality as well, and just being able to have that coming from an instructor standpoint. Went, okay, well, what are the things that we're just doing over and over again here? What can we systemize? What can we do better? So we introduced an audio visual guide to all of our classes. So television screens up on the wall that demonstrated and physically showed the exercises, and then also an audio track over the top of that took care of all the cueing, you know, so what we now what we have is a full, I guess, audio visual element. We've got a virtual instructor combined with the physical instructor as well. There is, people have asked along, well, why don't you just, open up your studio to have customers come in and, and just do classes and they can just play the videos. I'm like, yeah, cool. But hang on, that's not, that's not how we do things. That's not how we did things in the past. And it's not what we're doing in the future either, because where the instructor is the 100% the defining factor of a class. And so what we did was just support that. We supported our instructors by taking away the monotonous stuff, the cueing the same exercise the same way each time, and demonstrating the exercise. We took that bit away. We just systemized it so that our instructors can focus and get more hands-on with the customer, and get more hands-on with the client. Sometimes, that just some of those subtle nuances of the exercise unlock the workout that you get for in an exercise. And we wanted our instructors to be able to still get hands-on and unlock those keys for our clients, and to be able to make sure that whether it's, I think as you put it, whether it's the spring resistance or the body weight as the resistance, making sure that instructor knows what that client should be doing and what resistance they should be on, but progressing them as well over time, and making sure that intensity is there over time, and helping that customer on their fitness journey. Do you know what I mean? And from the first time that they came, when they're not strong, they're deconditioned, through to getting them to peak physical strength and endurance. That's what that's the thing. Before we even, moved into the group side of things, and it was, I guess, an evolution of how we did it. But each part of that evolution and each part of that, I guess, how we do things and how we've created our franchise system is all geared back to where the magic is with any Pilates business. And the way that I see it, it is the value that is exchanged between the instructor and the client. When that customer gets great value from their workout, from the customer experience, from the sequence of the exercises, through to the rapport that's built with the instructor, to the atmosphere that instructor delivers, all of those things, the care, the empathy, the support, the encouragement, all of that sort of stuff has to be there for that person to want to spend their time and money with you, and see that fitness journey through, like I said, from decondition through to peak condition. So yeah, that's I guess that's a little bit of an overview, and I'm conscious that I've just been talking at you for the last 10 minutes. So ask me some questions, Nathan.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's fantastic, and I didn't really want to interrupt your flow there because I feel like you're just kind of going through things in the way, um, which makes the most sense. And it's definitely a story. It's a journey. Like to start off with two machines, and then to scale from that point, kind of look at what you're doing and redesign it, and then systemize it, and then scale it over time. It's pretty awesome, because that's like something that didn't happen by accident. You actually intentionally created that. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that listen to that and go, damn, that's something I'd like to do too, not knowing exactly where to start. But so did you start with like the end in mind? You're like, what would be a more optimal way to do this and then try and reverse engineer it? Or was it just kind of trial and error the whole way? Or how did it go?
Yeah, it's a good question. A bit of everything. There was a lot of trial and error, a lot of errors, a lot of errors. I'll be straight up, made a lot of errors. So and I guess from those errors, I think frustration, builds up.
Yep.
And I think then I get to a certain point where I'm just like, ugh, I get angry, and then I'm like, okay, I've got to change things. But I'm always, emotionally aware enough to go, okay, well, it's not, this is annoying, but I need to figure out a way. I need to take accountability out of for any of these frustrations and practice that and innovate.
Yep.
Build a better system, or build a system if one doesn't exist. For years, Nathan, we were just, like I said, the instructor, the technician in the business loved it. But then the ambition grew. Do you know what I mean? Then the ambition grew. Okay, we've got to take it to the next level. First step was just like, okay, well, it's a lot. Like maybe we need an employee. Maybe we need to find another instructor. So we're like, okay, sweet. Let's do that. Let's advertise, okay. So we advertised, we got someone, and then it was like, oh, cool. You start on Monday.
Yep. Straight in. Yep.
Straight in. Yeah, that didn't work well, because, we just thought that, they came really qualified. They've done heaps of training, had heaps of experience, just, yeah, cool. Like, this is Mary, like, you've got her on Monday morning, off you go. So then it was like, okay, it's that did not work well.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't end well, and we kept on making that mistake until we realized that, okay, well, not all training programs are built the same. We, have figured out things along those, that several years of instructing, that we realized that we don't do certain exercises that we don't do with everybody, because they're not, they're not suitable for every customer. Do you know what I mean? So, because we'd always taken the approach of the exercise that we provide to the client were 90%, what they want, and 10% what they really need. Some instructors we had that came in on those early days were just like, oh no, they really need this. The customer really needs to go back to basics and, just do these, simple leg movements and deep breathing and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but they're never going to come back. So, like you've got to, keep them safe and work the rest of their body out and get them stronger globally, whilst also not injuring them, with their particular back injury or whatever it may be. And then doing the things that they need to get that back better. So it's the combination of both what they want and what they need is critical in order to keep them with you, so you can get them, completing their, their fitness journey and get them better, from that. Anyone that has that, we get a lot of customers in that, I guess, semi-private sort of space that have injuries that we want to keep well, but we also want to work them out as well. That's part of our philosophy. That was part of our background. Like I said, I was an athlete. My wife was an athlete. She's a physiotherapist as well. So we wanted that safe, effective, and intense workout. And that's what we've replicated today. So yeah, plenty of mistakes. And we just realized that, oh, okay, hang on. Training programs are different, and also the interpretation of training programs are different. You know what I mean? Like instructors would just go with the flow of what they thought was a great sequence, you know what I mean? Or a great program or a great class that they delivered. But that was based on what they liked,
Yeah.
as opposed to what the customer liked,
Yeah.
and or
Yep.
needed. And so they were focused on choreography.
Yeah.
Oh, like, no, we focused on a different, like we're focusing on a different, like a different way.
Yeah.
If they've got a sore back, no, we're focusing on exercises that strengthen their glutes, their transversus abdominis. We're keeping that spine pretty safe, and we're not doing a lot of flexion, side flexion, front flexion. We're just keeping them pretty safe until we know that disc or whatever it may be can be controlled, and we can build global strength and core strength around that in order to then do some of those more fancy things. You know what I mean? There was a progression for these individual customers that we needed to stick with, and when we got an instructor in that was just all about the choreography, and then they had people like, standing on their head and flipping off reformers, like, okay, that doesn't work. We're putting some clients in danger here. So that's not good. So we went, okay, no, we got to onboard customers, we're onboard instructors, and we've got to train them. We've got to, even if they come to the party with some, some great certification and qualifications, cool. We just got to teach them all these other things. They know repertoire, but we're going to teach them all, I guess, the fundamental approach to physical conditioning, athletic conditioning, and strength progression that is critical to, keeping customers safe and well. So that was I guess a learning for us. And also just from the client's perspective as well. Sometimes, like I said before, we were the business as opposed to having a business. Like, the clients would just get really attached to us, and then if we had another instructor come in, sometimes they just disappear just because they that was different. Or, the quality of the product or the service wasn't the same. Once again, we didn't have standards, we didn't have training, we didn't have onboarding we just, like I'm sure some studio owners that come will have experienced that, that are listening will have had that hardship as well. They'll get a great instructor that's had a great reputation of great training. They'll be on the floor and they won't be successful, just because the clients expect something different. It's not necessarily because they're bad or, they may or may not be. It's got nothing to do with it. It's just that it was just a different expectation from the customer. So we had to go through that whole learning of, okay, well, regardless of training, we have to onboard our instructors, and we had to create a whole onboarding program, and even then okay, well, this seems like a lot of rework. I think we need to create a training school. We need to create a training academy. And so we trained the Studio Pilates education arm of our business. That was many years ago we started that. But that was all in conjunction with the fact that we wanted to expand the business, but we were facing these fundamental problems in our existing business. And what I call it, one of the big ones is the triple I. So the instructor inconsistency issue. Do you know what I mean? Like you have, I'm sure you've seen it, in your travels as well. And it's like some instructors are incredibly popular and others are not, and it's like, oh my God, like why is this happening? And it's diving deep into that, like, okay, then it's how they're approaching it, what they're recommending for resistance. It's the sequence of exercises that they're delivering. It's like a whole bunch of things. So it was like, oh my gosh, we've got to go right back to the start, and we've got to, train people on some of this methodology and how we approach. And it's not just repertoire, it's the approach to things as well as the repertoire, as well as the cueing, what I mean, as well, because we were full cueing back then as well. And, some, I guess, schools would teach cueing, others don't teach cueing. They just teach, this is the exercise, here how it looks, and, and these are the fundamental parts of it. So we're very heavy on that, on the cueing side of things. And we went through a stage of like, we'd figured out, I guess, through many years of being on the floor, and you would say things to your clients expecting a result, and you would get the opposite, So you'd say, I don't know, maybe lift the arm up, lift the arms up, and they would go like this. And you'd go, oh, bugger. Do you know what I mean?
What I can't see right now, he's just lifted his shoulders up like a shrug. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of, being more descriptive and saying, look, let's reach the fingertips to the ceiling above the head. And so that's, all of those descriptive words and getting those, really spot on
Yep.
was only just born through, just a whole bunch of frustration being on the floor and just being analytic of what we were saying and the physical result that we're getting. So that just happened organically over a long period of time, because we always focused on, a 60-minute workout then. It was a 60-minute workout and getting through as many exercises that as we could to give the most amount of value, and giving each exercise a fair crack, like not just doing it for 10 seconds and then swapping. You know what I mean? Like keeping a workout flowing is probably a better, no downtime, no rest time, no having the customer standing there looking at their watch, going, what's next, keeping them moving. And so that the description of each exercise was key. Yep. So we went through, okay, we're going to build our own training program, on top of, instructing, 90 hours a week, it was photographing every exercise, writing down how we said things specifically to get that best result from the client. How we created things like our cueing formula, focused on things that were, very, that got the armed freestyle, we call them freestyle instructors. So those that, just like instruct and have to cue and select their own exercises. We call that sort of freestyle instructing. We had to arm those guys with as many of the tools as we possibly could to teach a great class that we felt that would taught a great class and could retain those clients and again satisfy their wants and needs and keep them on that fitness journey. And that journey to peak into conditioning and strength. And so, we developed those on top of when we were instructing a hell of a lot. And then just started to open up the doors, say, hey, we have to teach our own instructors this. So this helped to leverage that onboarding and training program on that piece of our business. And we only had one studio at this stage, of course, as well. And then we just opened the doors wider as well and said, hey, would you also like to train? So that sort of, I guess, started the whole our training side of things. We've now certified over 10,000 instructors. And so that's, I guess, quite an achievement. We've helped a lot of people in the industry, a lot of independent operators to get, qualified and certified and confident, and as well as, those within our network, our franchisees and their staff. Well, because with our franchise network, we have a centralized training academy as well, where every instructor, every person that works in one of our studios goes through our training as well. Because once again, that was part of our journey. We realized that there was that the triple I, phenomenon, that instructor inconsistency issue. Yep. And that, for an instructor hearing that, they go, that doesn't make sense. But as soon as you hit that, I want to be a business owner, and you may not realize, well, most people don't realize that is an issue until you've already got a studio open, and then you're scratching your head going like, what's going on here? It's like everybody reading from the same playbook is really important, but it's not just which exercises that we're selecting. It's how we're describing them, how we're piecing them together in a sequence, in a 60-minute class, in a 40-minute class, however long your class is. All of these things play into it to be consistent and get a dependable and repeatable product at the end of the day. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question. I did a lot of rambling once again. As you can see, Nathan, I'm pretty passionate about this sort of stuff. It gets me excited.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that impression. I love it. Yeah, I agree with you 100% when it comes to the consistency. That's one thing I actually enjoy talking about with people, because I find that within studios, everyone tends to get, if you take like the most, I don't know, you could say just the most general example, we could say there's a studio and they've got a couple of different instructors. Most of the instructors probably come from different training backgrounds. One might be a PT, one might have been a dancer, one might have just only done like Pilates education. So they'll go And imagine what it's like for the client. The client turns up to one class and the instructor calls it a certain name, gives a certain spring tension as the load. And they go to another class, they do the same movements, called a different name, they use different spring tension. There's no consistency in the name, the load, or the loading strategy. They're not like starting easy and scaling up. Some instructors always put you in the hardest position first. Some instructors put you in an easy position, never make it harder. So it's impossible to be consistent unless you're actually all calling it the same name, using the same load, and loading people the same way. So yeah, it's a wild west at the moment with this, like a lot of studios kind of pieced together with different people. So I definitely feel like the more consistency you can have and the more of a like intention you bring to the class, the better the experience will be for the customers, you know. And I feel like that's something that you picked up on, and you're like, how can we overcome this problem? And it sounds like the training academy you've created has been basically purpose built for that as a solution, but then you've expanded it to other people that want to learn it too, that aren't within your studio. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we do the full range. Like in our Studio Pilates business model, our franchise model, it's only Reformer, right? But we teach and have always taught in our education academy, we've taught mat work, all the repertoire. So mat work, table, wonder chair, all of them, you know, because we had that originally, and that's how we started our business, like I said, for the first like nearly decade, you know. So we taught using all of those apparatus and all that machinery, and so we did the full, creation of manuals and all that sort of stuff for all of that apparatus, and we love using that machinery. But once again, to get scale, we just had to simplify things,
Yep.
and so many things, you can do on the Reformer, that you could also do on the other repertoire. So it was just made sense to us, to do the group Reformer thing. Yeah. So tell me what you're obviously going around to a lot of these studios, around the world. And, mentioned off air that, like, congratulations on living your best life, man. You're just, you're doing, you're doing an amazing thing for the industry, but also for you personally as well. I think it's incredible what you get to do on a daily basis. So, yeah, super stoked for you, man. But tell me, like, what is the main, I guess, or a few of the main issues that you see that that studio owners come to you and say, hey, Nathan, I really need help with this.
Yep. Yep, for sure. Well, the big challenge I have is, the first one you just mentioned now is consistency, because, when someone wants to create a studio, usually they have like their own kind of method or style, and they want to deliver a certain kind of experience to the customer. But then when they get their team together, it seems like it's unachievable to kind of unify the team with a single focus. And I feel like a lot of the studios, they lack like a mission statement. They don't really have an overarching objective. So if there's a lack of purpose, then the instructors are left to their own devices and they create their own purpose. And usually their own purpose is, I'm just going to keep on getting professional development from teaching as many different things as I can. I'll look through Instagram, find something different, try it out. So a lot of the times they kind of delivering classes, creating exercises, not with the mindset of, is this the most optimal exercise for this person? It's more like, oh, this is different. Different's good. So it's less optimal for the clients because they can't really get consistency from the different instructors. So they tend to have to pick one that they like the most because at least that person's like themselves. And then the studio owner's like, shit, how come I can't fill all my classes? And why is this person or a couple of people always more popular than others? And it's like a process now of like, how do I help everybody improve? And because there's such strong opinions out there, usually people identify with who they learned from and whatever style they learned from. The studio
Yes.
owners tend to find it really hard to bring everyone together on agreement on anything because everyone's just so different. And the only thing I've found so far which brings everyone together is if you take away all the method and you focus on what's objective. And then what is objective is load, because basically you got spring tension as load or body weight as load. And if you use that as a reference point, then you can say objectively, well, this load will determine which muscle group is working and also the level of intensity it's experiencing. And then you can go, okay, well, if I know that from the start, I can already tell everyone what they're going to feel, where they're going to feel it, and then I understand what progression looks like. Because if spring tension's load, heavy is harder, body weight's low, the less tension's harder. You have to work hard to support yourself. So the insights in bringing everyone together on something they can all agree on, keeping your objective, focusing on load, controlling how you deliver load, because the more you control how you deliver it, the more predictable you become and the more trust you build. And the less predictable you are with how you deliver load, the less people want to take progressions because they just don't know what's going to happen. You know, they don't know whether they'll be able to do it or not. And because they don't have that much experience, they just assume the reason they can't do it is because they can't do it instead of the actually understanding. Unfortunately, the instructor just hasn't really looked after them. That's all. But also, you can't also just. Well, one thing I like to say to everyone is we can never blame the clients for anything, ever. You know, because if they don't trust us, it's because we're not trustworthy. We've demonstrated that we're worthy of trust yet.
Yes.
You know, if they don't have rapport with us, it's our fault because we haven't taken the time to get to know them more and actually build that. You know, if the room is low energy and kind of really quiet and not that engaged, it's not their fault. They're coming into that room. We're the ones creating that environment. So everything that happens is our fault, basically. So taking that kind of personal ownership back and saying that, what do you actually want to create? You know, what environment do you want people to experience when they come here, and design it, you know, with intention, purpose, everything. There's like nothing in the workout or the experience which is better accidentally. Purpose and intention is like the key for everything. And as soon as every instructor knows what that is, now they've got much better chance of actually creating it. But if there's like a void and no purpose or intention, if you ask an instructor, what's the mission statement of this studio, and they can't tell the answer, then how the hell can they teach a class that's meant to represent that? It's really easy though if you say, all right, our mission is we're going to look after people, we're going to progressively overload them over time, and we want to help them build strength and confidence. If that's your mission statement, that means you're going to teach exercises like that. You're going to choose things that are effective. You're going to load people. You're going to get to know them. But if there isn't some kind of mission, then people are just going to, you know, make it up as they go, and yeah, everyone's going to be different. So that's one thing. Consistency is huge. Yeah, I think most of the problems stem from that, and then you got a lot of limiting beliefs on the part of what's possible. From what I've seen so far in different parts of England, is there's a lot of studio sizes are like 4 machines, 5 machines, and that's all good, but it's almost impossible to scale because you just don't have like the economic side of it, you know, because you're paying the instructor probably almost the lion's share of the class, and then you got to cover the costs, and then you're in that position. So having like 10, 12, 14 plus reformers is necessary. And I think that's why reformers are so big in Australia, because the first kind of successful models were seen to be with that kind of scale. So everyone just kind of copied that. So that's what's normal for us. But yeah, for a lot of different parts of the world, it's unimaginable to teach so many people at once, but it's very achievable if you have a system, you know, if you're intentional. Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting to see the differences. And I feel like it's the same process. Like I'm learning just as much as I'm sharing because I'm seeing all these different environments, seeing what's working, what's not working. And I'm excited to try and custom build some kind of experience in the future, which would be optimal for all these different places.
Yeah, absolutely. And just want to pick up on a few things that you shared there. So things like the commercial aspect, do you know what I mean? Like, because we were the same, right? So we had like maybe 3 people in a group, right? And that's all good. But then when someone cancels, or there's a couple plus one other person maybe that you've got in the semi-private, and then all of a sudden you've got, you know, 2 of those people cancel, you know, you've got 1 person. Do you know what I mean? That's you've just lost a giant chunk of revenue. And yeah, cool, that's annoying when it's just you, but when you've got a staff member there that you've got to pay to deliver that, and now all of a sudden you're not even covering their wage for that hour, okay, that bites, you know, that hurts, you know. And so once again, that was one of those fundamental, you know, metrics that just didn't add up to a scalable, you know, a profitable commercial enterprise, you know, in that definition of that business, profitable commercial enterprise that can work without the owner if the owner chooses not to work in it or go on holidays or whatever. There was not that extra room to generate that profit, because of that limiting factor. So I was like, okay, well, like group reformer, it's the only real way to go in order to be able to do this. But then we needed that system, to be able to be consistent. And that, because now, I mean, in some of our busy studios, I think our record at the moment is 1,057 visits in a week.
Wow.
Through one studio. So that's that's pretty busy.
Yeah.
So over 1,000 customers come in, 1,000 visits in a week. That's pretty strong. So how are you going to manage that? 1,000 people coming through the door. You need a system. You need all of your instructors. Doing the same thing, speaking from the same, reading the same playbook, delivering the same thing. And what we found is as well, just to be able to handle that type of capacity, you need a lot of infrastructure. You need things well thought out and well planned, and you can't afford to have that inconsistency issue with the instructors. And that's, we've now got studios that are doing that on a regular basis, 600, 700, 800, all the way through to over 1,000 visits in a week, coming through our doors. And that's super rewarding, not only financially rewarding for our franchisees, but also, just to be able to touch that many lives, and have that many people experience that in a week. You mentioned mission statement before. Our mission statement for our business is to change the way the world works out. That's what we've always been focused on, and that's what we're working towards building. Something that whether it's you do it for Pilates for a short period of time, or whether it's the only thing you do for exercise, whether you're an elite athlete and you do it as just a small part of your overall fitness regime, or whether it's, someone who's doing a bit of CrossFit and this on the side, or whatever it may be, as long as we're can be incorporated into that, then, amazing. And we're sharing with people the benefits of Pilates, and helping to touch the lives of these people in the local community. That's something that's super rewarding for me. And you mentioned as well, one of the words that you used was confidence, and that's one big thing that that I always focused on and have instilled into our instructors as we do it, and help to build into the system, as well as that confidence building for the client. I think early on in the piece, very early on, I realized that, not everybody is confident. When you have that person who has never exercised, never done a stretch, or never even walked around the block before in their life, they are extremely, not only deconditioned, but extremely underconfident as well. They're not confident, to do what we're doing. And now we're asking them to, put their feet in their straps and, and do all these sort of things, all these crazy movements. So building that confidence is in that customer is a real key, I see. It's a key to having them stick with it. And only through sticking with it can we change their life through this Pilates journey, and get them stronger, and get them, either fix their injury, or help them to get stronger, or, help them with their sporting performance, whatever it is, whatever their goal is. It's building that confidence within them. And that's why we as part of our Studio Pilates training, and this is, we really focus on this with our within our franchise network. So we've got a stream of education that specifically works for our training, the franchise side of things. And that's one of the big parts, building the confidence in those clients, in order to, there's plenty of high fives, there's plenty of uplifting messages that instructor is communicating. It's you're as simple as asking a client to modify their technique, say, hey, John, can you curl up a little bit higher for me? Yes, you've got it. Great. That's it. Well done. it's just simple, simple things like that that help to build the confidence in that client. And we do that on a one-on-one basis, and with every customer that comes through the door, in order to, to build the confidence of that client and connect with them as well. Some people see like the audio visual stuff that we've got here in the way that we do things. Some of the things that we always get asked is like, like in the Pilates community is, don't you find that stifling? Don't you find that really restrictive? Or I could never do that. I want to teach, controls into arabesque, or I want to do short spine and, all these great exercises that are fantastic. And I love teaching those, don't get me wrong, but what I found was it was teaching those to one client in a week, you know what I mean? Like I was talking, that was the 1%, and as opposed to helping the 95, the 99% of people with the exercises that could be scaled up or down with an intensity element, as opposed to a choreography element. You know what I mean? So what we did is we actually eliminated a lot of exercises out of the repertoire. And so we just kept the ones, like this is for our franchise model. I mean, we only kept the ones that we were delivering to 95% of people, over and over again, that could easily and quickly be changed, in intensity, via the spring resistance or a small modification that was in the same movement. For example, like hundreds, okay, well, we can just lower the legs a little bit more, or maybe add a circle in between the ankles to increase the load. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to doing a completely different exercise. So, we focus on always, we eliminated some of those more amazing exercises, but not for everyone. Exercises, we get those out of the Studio Pilates franchise repertoire, and we just focused on, yes, okay, cool, anyone can do these, which then builds the confidence of that customer. And no matter what you have, no matter what level you are in fitness, whether you're first time or you're an Olympic athlete and world record holder, okay, you just put on more springs. Or decrease the springs, like you said, with the if the body weight is the resistance, just okay, do no springs or just do a half, sweet, and it's easily scalable, because that then keeps you don't have customers then that are sitting on the sidelines. It breaks my heart when you've got a group class and then customers come in and the instructor is doing some fancy exercise that's rad. Don't get me wrong, it's great, but they're doing an exercise, but half the class or even one person can't do it, and they have to sit on the sidelines, and they have to, the instructor just, says, just wait for the next exercise. Like, I mean, that customer's like their confidence is going through the floor. It's terrible. It just breaks my heart to see that, because that client's probably not going to come back because they're embarrassed. And so what we've now, there's the Studio Pilates system, it means that the instructor is free to be able to help and nurture that person and give them an alternative exercise. And the rest of the class just isn't even aware that that's even happening. They're just focused on the television, the audio track, doing their thing, loving it, getting super focused and strong. And that other person that can't do it, is now the instructor's right there with them, giving them an alternative exercise that they can do that's going to help their body and help them to get better, and so it's actually freed up and the instructor to be able to focus on what matters the most. And in my opinion, that's that one-on-one element, and making sure that that exercise is right for that person and the right resistance. And it's not contraindicated to any issues. It's not, they're not going to exacerbate an injury and make that worse. Instead, no, we know that person has a sore shoulder. And so the instructor, all they know that there's some overhead movement in the there's, I think we call it hug the moon. There might be that exercise in the repertoire today in the workout. And so the instructor knows that Mary has a sore shoulder. So at the start of class, when they're greeting all of the customers, they go, Mary, we know that you've got a sore shoulder. So we're going to give you an alternative exercise in that particular, you're not going to do hug the moon. We're going to give you a separate one, and cool. So we've preconditioned that customer to know that, cool, then they're not going to, they're not going to hurt themselves. And then when that exercise comes on in the class, Great, that instructor's right there, giving them an alternative exercise to rehab their shoulder or do something, a little different. That's not going to make that customer feel bad. We also train our instructors to give out those, I guess, substitute exercises to make them look similar to the rest of the class, so that the customer feels like that they're not, doing something remedial. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing worse than seeing the rest of the class like doing this amazing workout, and then you're sitting there going, oh, I've got to do this boring exercise. We keep them, we keep that, we try and aim to keep that customer growing in confidence as they, with every class, with every exercise, and also throughout their journey as well.
Yeah. I'd imagine with all the systems you've been creating, you probably would have seen, different studios and different locations that have had more success, less success, and probably analyzed what is it about the locations in particular that works for your studios. It'd be pretty interesting, I'd say, if you, with all the data and statistics you've got, I'd imagine you'd be able to go and look at any city and go, this is exactly what we need. Like find like the areas in which we got the demographic, like the size of the studios. So that in itself, I think that insight combined with the person who wants to become a part of the franchise, it's like you're setting them up to win, basically. Because like a lot of the times, if someone's going to open up a new business, all those things are kind of, they don't know that yet until they've done it, But if you already have that angle of, exactly what capacity, what location, and all the other metrics you'd use to analyze it with. And then I'm assuming you've got some kind of support network specifically built for the owners, to help them in the process of like running the studio. Is that right?
100%. So yeah, it's full end to end, from site identification, we help, pinpoint, a local community. Most of the time it's a franchisee in any city, let's say it's a new city, it might be Denver, Colorado, that we might be opening, that franchisee will come to the table and say, hey, I think this is a really great area. And we back that up with data. We always look at the, all of the, socioeconomic, information, with any particular area. But most people know that, we're not opening, studios in, bad areas like the wrong side of the tracks type of things. We're looking for good commercial opportunities, where people have the time and money to do Pilates, at the end of the day.
Yep.
So we're looking for, the right demographics. We help to pinpoint that particular site as well, and narrow that right down. We've got property teams that will find the site. They'll find the actual venue, negotiate the lease. We've got someone who then designs the studio and helps the franchisees with all the building, like all the permits and all that sort of stuff that you need from the local government or, council or whatever it may be. We've got then, build thing, all the whole build process, pre-launch marketing as well. So, an extensive online and offline, pre-launch marketing plan that we've done many, many times and have seen studios roll out with, again, in excess of 1,000 people that have signed up to do workouts before the doors have even opened. So we've got, that's an instant massive customer base straight up, and we've seen studios open $120,000, $130,000, $140,000 in their first month of trade. That's getting them, 50% up to even 50% of their total expenditure, the total establishment cost. They've generated that even in the first month, sometimes on some launches. We've had just, amazing success. Could you imagine that? Like, investing a whole bunch of money into a new studio and then boom, first month, wow, I've just made half of it back. Holy smokes. So it's pretty incredible to have that sort of, some of those results. It's really rewarding to see those franchisees that haven't come from the Pilates industry. Most of our franchisees are not Pilates instructors. Those that are already Pilates instructors, find it easy, to plug into a system and run with it. The vast majority of our franchisees come from, like, they might be corporate, they might be a corporate not even in the Pilates industry. They might have a job, or returning to work after having a family, or they are just finding their careers are ultimately unrewarding, and they're looking for something different. We've got accountants, we've got lawyers, we've got successful CEOs of companies, come to us and open studios. It's really incredible to see, because that's rewarding from my perspective. You know what I mean? As the company founder, to be able to have people experience the joys and rewards that we experienced and still do on owning and operating studio. That people from any walk of life can experience that too, and build something that puts clothes on their back and a roof over their head and food on their table.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, it creates something that it's a business that they can sell one day and cash out, and it's a saleable asset. That's something that is important in this industry as well, is to have people to put all that work in and then be able to sell that out and cash that out at the end of the day as well. It's more than a job. We're thinking more strategically, more commercially here, and we're creating that saleable asset at the end of the day. So that is, something that is a real benefit as well. And sometimes an independent studio, may not be able to achieve that at the end of the day. They may not be able to, sell their business. They may, great, but they also may not be able to as well, and they just close the doors, and we've seen that plenty of times. So yeah, and I mean, like, it's extremely rewarding for me as well, to help instructors, to be part of this community, and to be able to, again, come from any walk of life and be able to become a world-class instructor really rapidly, and plug into a successful framework where you've got, like I said, over 1,000 customers coming in some studios in a week, and be able to come in and be able to deliver a class of maybe up to 20 people in a class, and to be confident and competent. Mm-hmm. And the other good feeling, the good layer on that is to be able to do something that fills them up. It fills me up by being on the floor and instructing, and that's rewarding, because once again, it's the basics of that. It's food on their table, roof over their head, and clothes on their back, just the fundamentals. But more than that, it's doing something that fills them up, because I love instructing. I don't get to do it much these days, but I cherish the opportunity when I do, because it's so much fun, Nathan. It's so much fun. As you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I love it. But I can only imagine, in the process of expansion that you've gone through, is it hard to maintain some kind of culture? Does the culture shift depending on the type of people that come into it? How do you maintain it the way you want it to be? Does you feel like it gets diluted or becomes more corporate in a way that's more impersonal? Which is like a generalization, I suppose. But is there something that you've been intentionally doing to try and maintain that kind of feeling you had when you first started within the group?
When define culture for me, just unpack that a little bit, and then I'll be able to.
Standards of behavior, expectations, communications between people in the company.
Yeah. What we find is that those that don't fit within our culture organically tend to realize that it's maybe not for them, and they sell their business. We assist them to sell their business, and they move on ultimately. So that's what we've found. So we have quite a unique culture as well, I think, in many regards, and we have a culture of success, of course, but of caring, of nurturing, of helping others, and being part of a true part of a community, and an interdependent community as well. So the franchisee will rely on each other, like on other franchisees, as well as us relying on franchisees, and franchisees relying on us. When I say us, the support team.
Yep.
So, that's a critical part. And what, we like to foster a relationship between our franchisees. We actively do that with regional meetings and online and offline meetings and get together and gatherings. So, franchise conferences as well, where we bring global conferences where we bring everyone from all over the world. We just recently had one in Queenstown in New Zealand, where we brought everyone from all over the world to beautiful Queenstown and had a great time and delivered educational content and a whole bunch of stuff. But that stuff is just really rewarding to see everyone come together and and connect with each other and be part of something bigger, because sometimes it can be quite isolating, being a studio owner and even being an instructor in a studio. It can be quite isolating. Do you know what I mean? Because if it's just you there teaching the class and then you don't see anyone of your other fellow instructors because they teach on different days, okay, it can be quite isolating. We put even from that micro level, we put systems in place. We realized that early on, and we got in that it can be quite isolating. And so what we did, we put in a mechanism called a smash party. So once a month, we brought everyone within that studio together and we did a social event, and we're religious with that social event.
Oh, I love
So we just
that.
did a social event, and we brought everyone together, and we might do something simple like go bowling, or, we might do something, go out on the town and have a few drinks at a bar, or, we might even just play some cricket at the local, at the local park with a few beers, whatever it may be. We change it every month, and we still do that to this day, with our support team and our original studio team as well. And we, that type of thing helps we also do, as part of that, is we also do an employee recognition thing. And these are all part of the things that, we learned over time, that we looked at what do big organizations do, and if we want to one day be a big organization, then we've got to adopt some of the things that big organizations do, One of the simple things that we took off the shelf was like a reward and recognition program for employees, like an employee of the month type of thing, straight up really simple to implement. We reward our instructors, just give them a little, gift certificate, $50 gift certificate, and we have two categories. One is high performance. So maybe it's someone who just, saw the most customers or something, or had the biggest classes that month. And then another one is living the culture, so, if we saw that a team member really supported another team member, someone was sick and they filled in for them, they back them up, then we recognize that, in front of their peers in this group setting. That's just one small sort of cultural thing that we like to do at a micro level. At a macro level, we have a really unique, our instructors are the heart and soul of our business, right? So all the rest is window dressing, at the end of the day, because like I said, our entire business, it operates and flourishes on the value that's exchanged between the customer and instructor. I said that, the SP magic. And so without that, we don't have an organization. We've got nothing, because there's no studio, because if the instructing is not good, or the experience is not good, there's no studio. And without studios, there's no royalties to help to build that infrastructure and those people behind, in the support team to pay their salaries to support our franchisees. So it all, as my role as CEO and founder of this business, I'm the least important person in this organization. The most important people in our organization are our instructors. Absolutely, without a doubt, and our franchisees have taken that entrepreneurial leap to open a studio, and it's their role to support those instructors, and make sure that business thrives.
Yep.
And they follow that infrastructure that we've created over the last 20 years. So that, I guess, circling back to that cultural piece, we realized that we are interdependent upon each other, for instructing talent. Right. So for that instructing talent, so when, let's say you've only got, you may say maybe you got 4 instructors and one of them's sick, all of a sudden you've got a 25%, deficit in your, in your talent pool to be able to deliver classes, right? So all of a sudden, and if none of your other instructors can fill that void, we're in trouble. And if you're the owner and you don't have that skill, if you're not an instructor yourself, or if you can't make it, you've got something on, you're away overseas, all of a sudden you're closing down class shifts, you're closing down classes, and customers don't like that. You're only, as an instructor, I believe we're only as good as the last class we taught. And as business, we're only as good as the last class that got taught in our business, and, the last experience that our client got from us. And if that last experience was, see you later, sorry, I can't service you today, then that they don't give you another shot, they'll cancel their membership or they won't come back, So, that interdependency. So what we have is a culture of talent sharing across our organization, so that if a studio in the neighboring suburb, the nearest studio, like, if we say, hey, my instructor's sick, I can't fill it within in-house, we then reach out to our neighboring studios. Hey, do you have anyone that might be able to fill? And those instructors, those franchisees will then, call their team and say, hey, do you mind, do you have any capability of instructing at this studio? They need some help. So that's critical when you're a business owner, having that support network of instructors within your city, is really, it's really critical because I'm sure you have observed that those pain points of not having enough talent and not having enough instructors, and that depth of instructors to be able to cover just life events, sickness, weddings, holidays, all of those sort of things, and that was one of the pain points we felt, for years. It was just that always needing more instructors and always feeling like you never had enough instructors, so again, one of the important parts from a business owner perspective of everyone being trained the same way. Yep. Everyone having the same program or playbook to run, and that's what we call the SPTV, that television system, and so we know that if we borrow an instructor from another studio for a day or a week or whatever, then our customers are going to be well serviced. They're going to have a great experience, and it's going to be seamless, and so we're not going to lose customers because of that. Where our business is strong because of that, and that is, I guess one of those, I guess, different things from a cultural perspective. Also, it's also an operational benefit and advantage, but it's a cultural thing that we foster, because there's plenty of franchises out there, whether it's place-based or not. I've heard some stories where owners from within the same brand, they'll go and try and experience a class at another studio within their same brand and be kicked out the door because they're afraid that other owner is going to steal their staff, and staff is such a precious resource. That is not a game that we play. And if it is, we share our talent because it's so important, and that's what we've built into our culture, so I guess that's one thing, or a couple of things, that those conferences bringing people together, both online and offline as well. We'll have regional meetings where we all meet up online, all different regions will meet up online and just connect and talk about any challenges that they may face and, solutions that we have within the organization, and help to nurture any of those people that might be facing a challenge, whatever. Mm-hmm. But also then celebrating successes as well, all of those things. So look, we work hard on that cultural element, whether it's at a micro level or a macro level. We focus on trying to ensure that the Studio Pilates way, we call it, is the Studio Pilates way is fostered throughout all of the regions that we're in, and that comes from our franchisees understanding that and living that. It comes from us as well, living that authentically, from a support team, supporting our network as well, and just from a practical standpoint as well, there's some real commercial benefits to it.
Awesome. You mentioned that you started in 2002, and could you give me an insight, or us an insight, into what the landscape looked like back then in the Reformer Pilates space / fitness space compared to now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's going back a while now. There wasn't many, like we started in Brisbane, Australia.
Mhm.
There wasn't many studios. Um, the I mean, there was some yoga studios, not many. There was no things like, there's no CrossFit. It was really just big box gyms. Your I guess Fitness First equivalent, or your, Virgin Active, or whatever the equivalent is in your market. They had that was the main thing, and at that stage, Pilates mat work was really, really just sort of coming into the gym space, really. It was really, had been gaining in popularity, and that was, it really exploded onto the scene in that space. That was most people's, I guess, first taste of Pilates. Of course, there was some, reformer studios out there. There's the whole sort of, East West Coast, style of things, within the American scene as well. That had long been there, and had just been, had started to build at that stage, of course, as well. It was before, like I said, any of that, the CrossFit type of thing, any of the other, before the boutique space had really even taken off at all. When I think about it, like I said, Pilates studios I see as, OG in that space, in the boutique space. Pilates studios have always been there, which is really nice. And then, over that time, we saw that real demand. Every gym wanted to have that, that Pilates mat work incorporated. And now we're seeing gyms, incorporating Pilates reformer studios into their spaces as well. And also, we've now seen, the boutique Pilates space just go from strength to strength to strength as well, which is really, really great to see, and that's participation levels, across the world really increasing. I think, I think we saw, 2.1 million visits across our network, I think, last calendar year,
Wow.
which is really great to see. Once again, just changing those lives and seeing those people, I guess you're making an impact on those people on a daily basis is really good to see. So I don't have too. It's been because when you get, I guess, hyper focused on on a particular thing, which I tend to do, you see some trends come and go. We saw things like, those vibration plates,
Yeah.
we saw that really sort of like explode and sort of almost get into the whole, I guess, boutique space. There was some that was sort of popped up, but then that vanished pretty much overnight as well. So yeah, it's been rewarding to see, the Pilates studio space just go from strength to strength, no matter what way that you deliver it. Whether it's, your reformer classes with the instructor, doing everything, whether it's our model, whether it's the semi-private or private session, regardless, however you do it, it's just good to see the industry expand, and it makes me happy to see that. We just, like I said, we approach ours and our expansion just from a specific strategic way. But I have, the utmost respect for all ways of doing it, because at the end of the day, if you're making an impact on a person's life through Pilates, then, mate, kudos, I'm all for you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. I just think it's fascinating because obviously at any point or any stage in everyone's journey, when you kind of enter into this world, you kind of see it as it is, but to being there from basically your starting point, you would have seen the biggest amount of transformation, because pretty much it didn't. Well, was there even people around much longer than you doing this kind of thing?
I mean, in Australia, there's a few studios that have been doing it a little longer, but there's only like, a couple. I could maybe, rattle off a couple, so we've been doing it for a long time. We saw a lot of studios come and go. Like when we started back in 2002, there was some studio, you know, one or two studios in Brisbane. For those that don't know Brisbane, I think we've got a population of about 2.5 million. So it's not tiny, but it's not massive either. You know, and over that time, we've seen, you know, we saw some studios just go out of business. You know, and I guess the unique thing we did was just we didn't give up. You know, we just kept on putting one foot in front of the other and kept on focusing on delivering the best workout that we absolutely could, and just made sure our customers were as, you know, as happy as we could make them. And we just worked hard, you know, worked extremely hard at every element of the entire business, as well as that core business of instructing. But yeah, we say, yeah, we saw them come and go, and new ones pop up. And you know, it's like I said, we've seen, I think, the biggest rise in the last sort of half a dozen years. We've seen the biggest explosion in that, in the boutique sort of reformer space. And as you've seen, you know, that commercial sort of tipping point of that, you know, that 14, 15 reformers plus, you know, being the most commercially viable way of delivering what we do, you know. So I think that's what we do, that's what we're focused on, just because of those elements. And I guess one other thing that we do differently is, you know, we don't offer like memberships. I think most, you know, and people ask us, well, you know, why don't you? And it's just, so that, you know, to give you some context as well, we only do like prepaid classes in advance. So we do the class pack system, and we've got a wide variety of class packs that people can purchase. But we tried the membership, and we found that it, early on in the piece, we struggled because people would just book classes and then not show up. You know what I mean? If like unlimited opportunity to book, like here you pay $60 a week or whatever, and you know, you can book whatever you want. We found that a lot of people were just booking their favorite time and then not showing up, and are disadvantaging a lot of customers. So we went through that sort of pain point. And then, yeah, sure, you could limit people to what they can book, sure, but then you also, you know, you could charge people for not showing up, that penalty side of things. But that's hard, you know, that's a pretty rough conversation to have with your customers that you're building rapport with, you know. So you know, we just switched to the prepaid package model, and you know, made it accessible for people, and it's just kind of worked for us. And we're kind of, I guess, a bit of a unicorn in that group fitness and that boutique space, in the fact that pay per class system really works. It helps with cash flow as well, you know, because everything is, you know, is prepaid up front, which is great. And other things that we've geared as well, like we do a 40-minute class that cycles every 45 minutes. So rather than doing a 60-minute workout, what we found is with the video technology and having all that structured, the good thing about the video tech as well is, like, you know, when sometimes you'll do like one side and then you'll switch to the other side and you only do half as many. You know, all of those inconsistencies were deleted. You know, we had consistency, and you know, on the micro level, but also from a macro level on that consistency. We've got every studio globally delivering the same workout or the same sequence, you know, every day right across the planet, you know, and then the next day it changes, and then the next day it changes. And how that each one of those sequences have been programmed is, there's only a few people in the organization that have the authorization to program new classes. One of those is myself. Another one is James Angahas. He's been with the organization for 15 years, also taught around about 50,000 classes, and he's a physiotherapist as well. We've got another instructor who's been with us for you know, for about 15 years. And so, you know, there's only a few of us that really pull those sequences together. And they're sequenced in a really specific way as well. You know, we'll sequence them in, you know, we'll end with peripheral muscle, start with, you know, the core. We always start with like abs first, and we'll train abs and maybe some, you know, some stabilizing muscles before then working, you know, some, you know, larger muscle groups. We'll work, you know, glutes before working legs generally, you know, I mean, work glutes before working quads, and, you know, that sort of thing, just so we get some firing sequences happening. We get that muscle activation before then, you know, going global with some of the bigger muscle groups, but then how they're then sequenced together as well, rather than going from arm to leg, back to arm to ab to glute, back to leg, back to arm. You know what I mean? We don't do it that way. What we do is we generally sequence it. So all of the quad exercises are all loaded together, so that we're getting an effect, a training effect, and that we're feeling, we're challenging that muscle, and we're increasing the workout and the intensity and that time under tension, and we're getting that intensity there, and we're working on that muscle endurance, because I see Pilates as muscle endurance training, and we want to test that muscle endurance, and so we load a lot of those exercises, keep them bunched together before we then move on to another part of the body, and so all that sort of, I guess we call it scientific sequencing, is all contained within that one particular workout. But then as well, how each program then appears within our system each day is sequenced as well. Yep. So for example, if it was a heavy leg day on day one, on day two, we might focus a little bit more arms. And then day three, it'll be an all over body workout. So within each workout itself, it's an all over body workout, but it's generally a concentration on a particular section of the body. So we'll really train hard one particular section of the body, and that then rotates, the body part will rotate each day as well, so that if a customer is coming every day, they're not overtraining a particular area as well. And so we've geared that in the whole macro sequence to ensure that like I said, those customers that come every day and just love everything that we do, everything Pilates, will they'll get a global benefit, as opposed to overtraining a particular area and making them more prone to injury. And I guess one of the other things that I see out there as well is that we do a little differently, is we've created a universal class. And so what that means is that, as I mentioned before, anyone of any level can jump into that class and get the most amount out of it, as opposed to having on the timetable an advanced class at 6 a.m. and then a beginners and intermediate and all these different sort of, I guess, levels of classes all peppered around the diary. What we've found is that just from a client perspective, it doesn't increase convenience, it decreases convenience. If I'm a customer and I can only come at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday and I want to do a hard workout, but it's a beginner's program, that's annoying, but that's the only time I can come this week, so I'm just not going to come. That's inconvenient to me, so we created a universal class that anyone can come, and so that in our workouts, so if you come on Tuesday, it might be playing a particular program all day, but you can come at any time and you're going to have a great workout, as opposed to, so it's got to be convenient, it's got to be accessible for people, and they've got to get the most amount out of it, which is what we focus on delivering.
So I think for that to work, you'd have to be super intentional with the complexity and the stability of the exercises you're offering, because you want to have them low complexity, good stability, and then you'd have to be intentional with the loading that you offer. Like, you have to give a range of loads to be able to challenge all the different types of people. It's interesting to hear all these different types of ways people can create this experience, and I really like that most people are running classes that go, like 60 minutes, 50 minutes, 40 minutes. To me, it sounds like it's super effective for the business, because you're probably going to fit an extra class in plus every day in the same amount of time. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we do a 40-minute class and it cycles every 45 minutes. So there's only a 5-minute downturn, in between classes. So customers will finish and exit as the new ones are coming in and finding their reformer and getting ready for the class. And that instructor's like, high-fiving people on the way out and welcoming new customers on the way in. So it's quite it moves, it moves quite quickly and effectively. And Yeah, you're right. We squeeze an extra class in the morning shifts, ultimately, just because of that, the ability to be able to do that. And also in the afternoon as well. We're getting like 2 or 3 more classes in a day than most others are, so that helps to really help. But the I guess if you've running a studio where you have to demonstrate all the time and explain every exercise, and you have those, I guess, the slow down areas, you kind of got to do a 60-minute, because it's just a little it's slower to get through. What we found is with the video technology, it eliminated all of that whole explaining all the exercise and that sort of thing, because it was just straight up on the screen. People could see it straight up, and it also eliminated, there's the model where the instructor's on a reformer up on stage, out in front of the class as well, and the instructor does the whole workout and people follow along. That was one of the, I guess, the ways that it was done back when we started, when we changed to the way that we do things now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's hard on the instructor's body as well. Like a soul cycle instructor, or whatever, do the class, that's a grind. You can only do a couple of classes and then you're toast. You can't do it, because it's not really it's not really, yeah, you're just wearing out. What we do is from now, like our instructors, I've talked to many instructors in the industry, and they spend so much time with, like, before unpaid work, before and after a class, choosing music, thinking of choreography and planning out their classes, and, doing all of this stuff. With our model, it's just walk in, walk out. You just, as an instructor, all you do is turn the lights on in the morning, turn the televisions on. You've probably reviewed what the class sequence is that you're going to teach all day or all morning. You know that, and then you have a look at your client list. Oh, cool. Oh, Mary's coming in. She's got a short shoulder, so she won't be able to do that. I'll give her an alternative. We've got John coming in. He's had, a sore knee for the last couple of weeks. We'll give him. We won't make him do that exercise. We'll make him do a different one. So there's a quick bit of revision, and then straight into it. There's no. Like, I know, plenty of instructors that just spend eons of unpaid work, doing, all that prep work for classes. And I think, with that 45-minute increment, 40-minute class every 45 minutes, what it does, it makes it convenient. And having that level of customer flow as well helps an instructor to then make this a career, and to have this as a real, they can do a full shift of instructing, and not just come in for a class. What we've got now is instructors that will teach from 5 o'clock in the morning through to 10:30 in the morning, and they've done a solid day of instructing every, sure, we do have some, it's not every 45, we do have some like strategic break times in there, little 15-minute break times here and there, so the instructors can, duck off to the bathroom, whatever. But they've taught a whole shift. They've taught a solid shift of, they've got a good chunk of work. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to it just being like 1 hour. They've traveled all the way in and done all that prep work for 1 hour of work, which is really that's a nice thing, from an instructing standpoint, to be able to do all of that. So yeah, that's I guess one nice thing. What we also did is we want to reward instructors for being great.
Yep.
And also sticking with the craft as well, staying with that craft, and not creating an environment where you have to, climb this corporate ladder, because ultimately, we're a small business. We've scaled a small business, as a franchise, as it was franchising is, it's scaling a small business and a business system. And so there's only so much room, one can, I guess, climb a corporate ladder, so to speak. And so what we created, as we rolled our first initial franchises out, and we tested all of this before we franchised as well. We created a system where, as an instructor stuck with us, we increased their pay rate. So they might start on X amount of dollars, but each year they grow with us. and with their skills and experience. But not only do they get like, an hourly rate, that was not enough for us. What we did was, if this business is winning, our instructors should win as well, because they are, like I said, they're the integral part of this whole entire organization. And so we created a framework where they get like an attendance bonus. So the bigger their classes are, the more they get paid,
Oh, wow.
so they get a commission, so to speak,
Okay.
a commission for every customer they see. So once the business has sort of covered costs, maybe it's like half a dozen people in the class, every person over and above that, the instructor gets, a piece of the action, so to speak. They get a commission. So again, and that commission metric, that number grows, it gets more lucrative the longer they're with us as well. So instructors getting paid extremely well. If they're bringing in the clients, fantastic. They win and the business wins. And once again, that's a sort of a cultural thing that we've built into the to the organization as well in our framework. Because otherwise, if just paying an instructor just hourly only gets you so far. You know what I mean? Like, we all want to be rewarded, and if this business is successful, our philosophy is share that with our with instructors as well.
Wow.
Which is might be unique.
It is. I've never heard of anyone else doing that, to be honest with you. And I really like the idea of it. I think talk about progression, like, because everyone wants progression. The clients want progression, but also the instructors. The instructors want career progression. They want opportunities. And exactly what you said, you hit a certain level and it's kind of like, well, that's it. So where do you go from there? And a lot of people start to look left and right, or, change what they're doing to find a different path. But it sounds like within the same space, they still have a direction to move in, which is really, really nice. And I know a lot of instructors that would like that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, not everyone is, when you see like, I want to progress in my career, usually it's, you got to step up to management level, but not everyone's a great manager and not everyone wants to do that. Straight up, like, managing other people, is not for everybody, and it's a specific skill set, that might not be it might not resonate with that particular individual. So I don't think, my philosophy is you shouldn't be disadvantaged from that. You should be able to continue to grow within your role, doing the same thing that you're doing, and be rewarded for the experience that you're garnishing over those years of being a great instructor.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, I like what I'm hearing, Jade. I like what I'm hearing. It's just great to hear different perspective, but also to hear like all these adaptations you've made has been like intentional to overcome problems. The systems you've made have helped you scale. And I think that with the systems you have and the rate at which you're growing far out, it's like exponential by the sound of it. You know what I mean? Like, you could just keep on going. Another 10 years, it'd be bloody everywhere,
Yeah,
So
that's
good.
what we hope. That's
Yeah.
what we hope. We're working on what we call our million people plan. So that's our big, hairy, audacious goal for the organization, is our million people plan. So that is to see 1 million people each week experience the Studio Pilates workout. So in order to do that, we need around about 2,000 studios. So that's we're nearly at 100 now, so we've still got a ways to go. So we want to see that goal realized and become a reality, and that's obviously phase one. 2,000 studios, that sees 1 million people a week experiencing the Studio Pilates workout. We will then, phase two is to take that bigger and change that to 1 million a day. So that's the phase two plan, but we're still focused on, that one, and if we're making, that makes a bit of a dent in the universe for us, 1 million people a week experiencing, Pilates, and we'd be absolutely blessed to be able to touch the lives of 1 million people each week, with the Pilates method. And so, I mean, in order to do that, we needed to create a system and to be able to deliver on that. And, it gets me excited, and it's something that I'm passionate about. And, like I said, I get joy out of sharing where we come from, and some of the things that we have created along the way. And, it's really great to talk to, other people within the Pilates industry, because sometimes, people will look at the way that we do things, people within the industry will look at the way that we do things and not understand, do you know what I mean? And, criticize, they've got televisions in their screen and, televisions in their studios and, voiceover, and it robs the instructor of their creativity. All these type of barbs that people throw. I'm like, no, we've been there, done that. We've done that and felt the joys of that, and also the pain points of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this business has grown organically out of solving pain points, removing pain points and creating better ways of doing things, in order to be able to deliver and scale excellence. So scaling excellence is what we're about, and that is it's easier said than done. I also believe it's easy to make something complex. It's difficult to make something simple. And that's what we're always focused on doing, just trying to simplify it just that little bit in order to be able to to get that scale and scaling excellence. So that quality is real key. And circling back a little bit to the repertoire that we focus on. We've got the 4 pillars that we talk about internally. So the 4 pillars of exercise, the exercise that we have in our program. Number 1, the exercise has to be safe. We can't have people doing things that might hurt their neck or injure their back. We've got to keep it safe. So that's priority number 1. That's our foundation pillar. Next on, it has to be achievable for the vast majority of the population. For vast majority of people. If it's not achievable, then it shouldn't have a place it doesn't have a place in our organization and our delivery of our workouts, because as we mentioned before, it's that decrease in confidence of that customer, that client, when they can't achieve it.
Yep.
That's just heartbreaking. The next one is intensifiable, made up a word there. So intensifiable, whether it's the spring resistance, like you say, or the body weight is the load or the spring is the load. Yep. Either way, if it has to be intensified by choreography, not keen, because it slows things down. Yep. In the class, and it's not as flowing, and it has to be scalable within the group as well. So when we say scalable, it links back into the safety element as well. One instructor has to be able to service 20 people and keep them safe, and to be able to get to everybody.
Yeah.
No way you can do that if you're trying to demonstrate the exercise at that same time, because with that scalability comes profitability. Yeah. Only until you get above half a dozen people within a class, only then do you start to make profit, because the first half a dozen people you're just breaking even on, just covering costs, the salary of the instructor, the rent, any other fees that you've got to pay. Only then do you get that. So the exercise has to be scalable, it has to be able to keep people safe. You need to be able to supervise and be able to get hands-on, if someone's just about to fall off a reformer, you need to be able to get to them. Yeah. And so, that has to be an exercise where that is scalable within the room. So all of those 4 key pillars is what we focus on within our repertoire and delivery, and the TV system ultimately just supports all of that. It just supports all of that and supports that instructor to be able to deliver that workout.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like I've got my own little thing, actually, very similar to that. I say with every exercise you teach, the 3 things that it requires, you need to have spring tension in the full range of motion. So it needs to be a full range of motion, because full range of motion will be more effective. And you need to have spring tension in the full range of motion, because if you lose tension in the range of motion, then obviously it's not enough tension to strengthen you. If you're only getting a partial range, for whatever reason, maybe it's a less than optimal body position, or you're not holding the right spot to allow you to do it, then it's basically the result isn't going to be as good as it could have been. And then number 2 for me is quick setup time. So that means simplicity is going to be the best, because you want to give people things that are considered with load, complexity, stability. Give them something that's easy and achievable with the first movement, and then build on that from there. And then the last thing is, you want to better control how fast people fatigue. So you want to put them in a position which is achievable from the start, and then you want to be able to scale the intensity on the muscle group you're targeting from that point. Basically, it's the exact same thing but just slightly different. But it's the same message that we have, which is
Okay.
awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely, because that class has to flow. I think in that group setting, let's say, outside of the Studio Pilates world, in the the group reformer space, that class has to flow. And so if it's a complex setup, you're just burning time, and that class is not flowing, so yeah. And it has to be an exercise that you can easily communicate how to increase or decrease that intensity for them. That has to be fundamentally part of it. 100%. Yeah, certainly picking up what you're putting down, Nathan, and what the messages that you're putting out into the Pilates community are fantastic. I listened to a recent podcast of yours, and that's why I picked up the phone and reached out and said, hey, let's have a chat, because I really like your approach and your thinking behind how to execute a class, and that's been born. I can see that's been born from being on the floor, but analyzing what you're doing. Analyzing what you're doing and thinking about it from not from a dancer's perspective, but from a physical training perspective, from a coach's perspective, which really resonated with me, because it's the same approach that I take as well, when I'm on the floor instructing. Yeah. So I love that.
I appreciate that. The what I try and share with people is, I think what makes instructors great isn't knowing lots of different movements, but it's actually like, do you know what this would feel like to be someone who's not you?
Yeah.
What would it feel like if you weighed like 120 kilos? What would it feel like if you weighed 35? What would it feel like if you haven't worked out in 5 years? You know what I mean? Like, that's that's what makes you great, is being able to empathize with that person and give them the exact things they need to get a result from it. Because if we can't train people that are not like us, then we can't help a lot of people. Like, we have to be able to adapt it for them.
Yeah, that's right. And that's that all of those things that you mentioned, that's a real it's a real skill that's learned over time, with experience. But then if you're only learning through experience, sometimes it can come at a cost of missing a lot of opportunities with customers. The fact that you're fast tracking that learning for people is fantastic. I really love that, because now if we're educating, if a instructor understands that this feels different for different people, and have that empathy, and understand what that feels like you said, for someone who weighs 130 kilos to someone who weighs 50 kilos, it's very different. Whether they're elite athlete or deconditioned, what that feels like for them, whether they're all of these different variabilities really comes into play. And like I said before, I believe you're only as good as the last class you taught and you delivered, and that's not necessarily being, judgy from an instructing standpoint. No, from the other's angle, from the client's perspective, we've got to look at that, how we're being received as instructor, what it feels like on the receiving end of this exercise. And the one thing that I always encourage instructors, whether it's inside the Studio Pilates community or outside, is ask the question, where are you feeling this?
Yeah.
Where are you feeling this? That is the number one question to ask a client in your class, because that is the biggest learning curve. From an instructing standpoint, if you're teaching an exercise and you think that it should, and it should be felt in the glutes, and you are rocking on, you're going like, yeah, some high fives, and you're going, yeah, let's load up the resistance or whatever, until you ask that client where you're actually feeling it. And sometimes you'll get the response, oh yeah, I'm feeling it in my quads. You go, oh, you're not supposed to be feeling it in the quad. You're supposed to be feeling this in the glute. I've got to change and adapt here for this particular client, because maybe their quads are 10 times stronger than their glutes, and we need to really focus on their glutes to get them stronger, their global strength better, and get their body functioning better. So we want to target this glute exercise, but hang on a second, they're not even feeling it in that area. We've got to change tactic. I've got to change exercise, or change the resistance, or change the sequence in which this appears within my program that I'm delivering, choose one of those three. So yeah, that's one question that I always encourage anyone to ask ask clients, like, whereabouts are you feeling this? And if the response is not in the right space, right place, that in itself can be disastrous or positive as well, what you say as an instructor, right? So if an instructor goes, oh, you shouldn't be feeling it there, you must be like, strange. That's obviously going to decrease the confidence of that individual, blaming it on the client. No, we have to get better at going, no problems. We're going to give you a better, we're going to give you an alternative exercise, or we're going to change the resistance. I think this is actually going to be better for you, and you're going to feel this in the target area. Now, don't be disappointed that you're feeling this in the wrong, in the spot. What we're just going to do is retrain the body and focus on this particular area a little bit more. We're going to take one step back to take 2 steps forward. Delivering that type of message sometimes is the only way that you're going to maintain a confidence level to then grow it. Once again, those wants versus the needs of the client, those things all play into it. So yeah, I mean, definitely picking up what you're putting down there.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, to me, the idea of actually adapting load over time is the most normal thing ever. So if you went to like a personal trainer and they never changed your weights in 6 months, you'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Come on.
Yes.
So the idea that we all have to be on the same spring all the time is obviously makes no sense logically, because it's just resistance training. But then also the idea that we all have to all be on the same spring, despite the fact that we've all got different bodies and different mass, that makes completely no sense, because you never go to a gym and expect everyone to use the same weight. So it's just bizarre. I think the foundation of reformer workouts has to be, how does the human body experience this resistance? Which muscle group is loaded in this body position, and how do you scale it from that point? Because if you don't understand that, then there's no way you get anywhere near progression, because you're not even sure what progression is. So that's the message I want to try to bring to people is, you never lose from having more intention. The more intention you have, the better you are at getting outcomes, because you set expectations and you deliver. Like in every exercise, I believe you should be able to tell everyone exactly what they're going to feel, where they're going to feel it, and how to make it harder.
Yes.
That's objective based on tension. It's not based on anything else. Their body versus the springs, basically, and everything. You should know exactly what's going to happen in advance. So, and then I also say to people, you want to spend most of your time observing rather than actually cueing, so you can actually watch people's speed of movement, range of motion, and adjust it accordingly. So you can actually see what they're feeling based on how they move.
Yes.
So with all that, the confidence level of the instructor goes through the roof, because they get all the information they need and it's always in front of them. So yeah, I like the way you think about it too. I like how you keep it on a training perspective and how to help people, because there's absolutely zero benefit to teach someone something they can't do.
Nothing. No
Doesn't help
benefit.
them, doesn't help us. It's like absolute waste of time. So to avoid that intentionally is like the smartest thing ever. As as a
Yeah.
system too, obviously on a huge scale, because it just means that you can make sure more people don't go through that circumstance that's uncomfortable and unnecessary. So yeah.
Absolutely. And like you said, less time queuing, more time observing. That's why we brought in the audio element of the what we call the SPTV, Studio Pilates TV. Not only the visual for those visual learners, but also the auditory for the auditory learners. When I say learners, the participant in the class. But it means that the instructor doesn't have to, spend all that time queuing and explaining the exercise. Instead, all they're doing is observing, correcting, ensuring that the resistance is correct for them, based on those observational cues that they get from the customer on, is the client moving too fast? Is their body position exactly right for them, and feeling it in their body in the right spot? Could they be doing more, inviting customers to increase their resistance and physically training the client, and taking them to a fatigue level? One thing that, like if we focus on Pilates as muscle endurance training, well, the only way we're going to train and get that muscle endurance is if we focus on fatiguing that muscle, so we can't be afraid of loading those springs on responsibly, but putting those springs on, and yeah, having everyone in the same class doing the same resistance, no, it's individual, and so that's why our focus and approach is, it's like a PT session. This is like a personal training session, just in a group environment. And the Studio Pilates TV system helps our instructors to be able to deliver on that. You can say that it should be a PT experience in a class environment. Yeah, that sounds like a good catchphrase, but you've got to be able to deliver on that, and that's why that support infrastructure of that virtual instructor, and then the physical instructor, that virtual instructor just frees our instructors up from having to worry about demoing and queuing. So they can observe and make sure that customer is getting that exercise right. It's got the right resistance for them, and also it also gives the opportunity to be able to connect, with that client, even if they're doing the exercise perfectly, we encourage our instructors to simply give that client a pat on the back, whether it's just a simple, like, oh, you're doing well, Nathan, keep going. You're doing great.
Yep.
Just that encouragement and that support, that's, I think, an important part of the whole, what I believe the Pilates experience should be. It's giving that encouragement and that nurturing to the client so that they want to come back. They feel like this has been a positive experience and they want to come back. So, that encouragement, whether it's on to the whole group, and we do that on the microphone. We have strategic sort of, I guess, gaps in the audio where the instructor gets on the mic and gives a whole group pep up, like they give some kudos and encouragement and some vibe to the class. But 90% of the workout, they're doing that on an individual basis, because that's the thing that builds that confidence within the individual. Nathan, you're doing an amazing job there. Keep going. Or it's like, Nathan, just curl up a little bit higher. Yes, you've got it. Perfect. That's it, man. Crushing it. These little things, these messages that we deliver to the client is critical. And we can do that, without that SPTV environment. So in that, in the group reformer setting, I think that is a critical part of building that, that client experience. It's not only the high-fiving, it's the whooping, the yeeharing, it's the explaining the exercise as well, but it's also that opportunity, if you get that opportunity to connect one-on-one with that customer and give them a compliment, like that, just lay that on thick, because it helps.
I agree. I mean, if you look at what people actually remember, like if you were to call up a client that came to a class 3 weeks ago and said, "Hey, you remember what we did in class?" They'd be like, "No idea."
No idea.
You ask them, "You remember how you felt?" They'll be like, "Yeah, I remember if the instructor knew my name. I remember if I could do the exercises, if it felt achievable, if I was challenged, if I was bored, like all those things." That's what they remember. So the most powerful things are the connection they have with you as the instructor, and if they could do the exercises and it benefited them. That's it. So that's the only thing we need to care about. We just need to make sure we know everybody and help everyone personally. And I always feel that if you go down that path, that's the path of the maximum fulfillment and enjoyment, the maximum presence. That's like just a great way to invest your time and energy, because you're getting a huge return on investment. You're helping people. If you go down the other path of just like filling time, teaching random movements, not really considering who it is, not even knowing who's in your class, you get less and less and less interested in it, and just becomes boring, and you help less people, and it's just not, and it's not the right way, I think, to view how you want to, if I'm going to say it like this, but if we're all living in this world and we get to choose what we do at that time, surely you'd want to invest it in the thing which is going to help you and the most amount of people, and not just do it to pass time. So if you're going to instruct, I believe your intention with instructing should be to help people. And if that's your intention, then knowing who they are is going to be one of the most important things to start with, and then going from there, caring is
I 100% agree, because now you're making a difference on an individual's life, and you're building that rapport. And that, from a business perspective, when a customer feels like the business cares about them, they will come back. If the customer feels like they're just part of just a number, they're not going to come back. They're not going to pay that premium price that boutique studios ask for. They're not going to pay that. They may as well just go to the gym and pump a few weights. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, or go for a walk around, you know, their neighborhood, you know, to get a bit of cardio in or a jog. You know, we have to bring something to the table. And part of that is, 100% knowing their name, you know, knowing what resistance that they did last time that they were in helps, you know, understanding who your client is and being with them on that progression, you know, and knowing their name and knowing their journey, knowing their goal, if necessary as well, is a great one, what they're working towards. All of these things, you know, are critical in being on that journey with that customer, and not just treating them like a number. You know, we did that just every single day of our life, you know, for a decade, and brought that into our system as well. You know, we have we train all of our instructors on what we call the start questions. So the start questions are questions that the instructor has to ask each and every customer at the start of every class, you know, straight up, really simple. And there, we teach them to, you know, check people in, you know, greet them by name, you know, hi Nathan, how are you going today? You know, so, you know, how are you is number one. Number two is, how is your body feeling?
Yep.
And number three is, you know, how hard would you like to work out today, essentially? So number one, how are you, and how are you feeling? It was really testing an energy state. You know, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling a bit off color, high energy, low energy? You know, checking that energy state. Next is, you know, how is your body? Because that's a very different question to, you know, how are you today?
Yep.
You know, how is your body feeling is more like, have you picked up an injury since last time I saw you? Do you know what I mean? Do you have any aches or pains? You know, it's more of a physical qualifying question as opposed to an energy state. And then how hard would you like to work out is really based on that energy state and that mood once again, you know, and it helps to, arm that instructor with the knowledge they need to know whether they need to modify the exercises for that individual. You know, how many times have you, you know, I know I've taught plenty of classes where, you know, you've given everyone some calf exercises, for example, you know, some calf raises, and like someone then gets to the end of the class and goes, oh, you know, that was really exactly what I needed. I just sprained my ankle yesterday and that really hurt it, you know, and it felt good. I'm like, oh no, you should not be doing that, you know. But if you're not asking these questions at the start of class, then it gets really, you know, it gets really difficult, because you could injure somebody. You know. So those start questions that we instill in all of our you know, in training, and get our instructors to ask each time is critical for that, because I've made that mistake. You know, I'll be honest, I've made that mistake and not asked those questions, and, you know, have potentially put people in jeopardy. I'll be honest, you know. And I had a customer come in who used to see my wife. I hadn't seen this customer for a while. I thought, oh, you know, yes, great to see Kelly back in the studio. Awesome. She was such a hardworking man. She'd do the most advanced exercises, you know, just like phenomenal, you know, and just intense, just pumped it out. Like, I'm talking like, you know, like one of the strongest people I've seen. And she hadn't been in a while. I just thought was coming in on different days, and I wasn't there because this time we had some part-time employees. And you know, so I thought I might have been having a sleep in while she'd been coming in on different days. Anyway, I took her for a workout, like, oh, you know, and I took it for a hard one, because all I'd seen is as my wife Tanya, taking her through her paces, and like really, you know, I'd taken her sometimes. And most advanced client, and hadn't seen her, came in, did this super tough workout. I'm talking like, you know, mega ab set, you know, full on, full body. And she gets to the end of the class, and as she's, you know, paying for a class, she's like, oh, Jade, that was fantastic. You know, 5 weeks after having my little one, that was exactly what I needed. I'm like, oh shit, what have I done? I just put this 5-week postpartum lady through the ringer, you know, like an intense workout, because I didn't ask the question. I simply was not aware, and I just went through, and like, you know, it just, Oh man, that was the last time that I ever did that. That's for sure. And one of these things that is now intrinsic within our system, that every customer gets asked these questions because of that stuff up that I did, back those many, many years ago, because it's, that can put potential customers at risk. So again, any, instructors out there, strongly recommend ask the individual, and it has to be done on an individual basis, right, as well. You can't ask people how their body is in a group setting, because they just won't, they're not gonna pipe up and say, oh yeah, I've got a saw so and so, because that's kind of embarrassing for them. So it has to be done on a one-to-one basis on check-in, because yeah, like they won't share, and it has to be discreet, for them to open up to you, and you have to have that level of trust. So yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. That's a bit of an overshare, I guess, but all of these things in the that they're all just, learnings, at
Yeah.
the end of the day. But if we can share those learnings with other people of the Pilates industry and community, then all of that is, it is positive, because we're ultimately, making the industry safer, and better, and more enhanced, either from a commercial aspect or from a client experience aspect.
Yeah. No, I think it's like I just want to say thank you for sharing that, because it's obviously it'd be easy not to share it, but just because you did share that now, you potentially prevented that situation happening to other people in the future. So that's fantastic. So thank you for that. But
You're
also
welcome.
I just want to say thank you so much for your time, Jade. We've been smashing it out here, and I feel like I don't want to stop talking, but I've got a lot of other things I've got to get on with today.
Yeah, no worries.
Checking out of this hotel, and then I'm going to teaching later today in Hartford. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. I know you're really busy, and I'm super excited. These goals you have are just epic. Talking about 1 million people, um, and then scaling up to like 1 million. Is that a day? Did you say? Yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
2,000 studios plus, like far out. That's inspiring to me. And I'm really like looking at my next steps in the future now, and I definitely see you as a role model, something I want to aspire to be like. So thank you for your time, mate.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for doing what you're doing within this community and with this industry. I just think it's fantastic, and really stoked for you, and really appreciative of the work that you're doing. I think it's fantastic, and more power to you, man. Love what you're doing, so keep it up.